band right now. Coming out of the elevator.
Yeah, they were the ones that are holding out, I guess.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's what it is.
We were told we were last.
Well, maybe that was a sociological comment.
Yeah, right? You ready to do this?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Oh, really?
Hey, how are you doing, man? Good. Sorry about the mix-up.
No, it's all right.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
Good.
What's your name?
Foxy Jeff.
Oh, Foxy Jeff. Okay.
Yeah.
This is Anthony Double D from Shoelace from down in near Marysville area.
Oh, okay.
They're awesome.
Sweet.
He's gonna play guitar today with a broken hand after
Oh,
you guys
nice.
are done.
Yeah, we're gonna play rock and roll stuff. Alright, we're just gonna shuffle our stuff in here, get it all set up, ready to rock and roll.
Well, wait till maybe right after we're done with this.
Okay.
Yeah, we'd rather have so there's
No,
not
I'm not
people
gonna set it up in here. I'm gonna set it
Oh,
up over
awesome.
here.
Okay, good.
Work.
We want to shuffle it this way.
Am I supposed to be filming
All right,
that?
this is FM 90.1 KZFR Chico, and we are listener-supported community radio for the Sacramento Valley, the foothills, and beyond. Beyond that, you can stream us online at kzfr.org. My name is Brad Peterson. You're listening to Studio 416. We are a live music and interview show. And my guest today, I have Julian Ruck in
That's
the
right.
studio.
Yeah.
And also I got Foxy Jeff.
Yeah.
How are you guys doing today?
Great.
Doing good?
Great.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you guys coming down and being on the show, and I know that you guys are involved in something coming up called I Play in Chico, right? It's a documentary.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
You want to tell us about it?
Yeah, I'd like to give a brief description. Jeff and I met at kind of a very small gathering of interested local promoters and musicians and whatnot that wanted to kind of boost the local music scene and wanted to get together and come up with some creative ways to do that. So there are a few ideas that were brought up at that meeting, and one of them really gelled for the two of us is a video campaign on YouTube based around the concept I Play in Chico. You know, the idea getting 10, 15-second cameos from local musicians playing a little bit of music and then saying, my name is so-and-so and I play in Chico to the camera. Just to start to brand Chico as a music town to outsiders.
Yeah.
We all know. But, you know, we find that Ashland doesn't know. Fresno doesn't know. So I want Nebraska to know. I want New Jersey to know. I want Athens, Georgia to know. So Jeff happens to run a production company called Get Foxy Productions. And when he heard the idea of I Play in Chico, he grew up here. He works at KCSC as well. And he said, I like this idea.
Yeah.
So we started as trying to make like a 5-6 minute promo video for local music. But as we started finding out more, interviewing more people, particularly on the history of music in Chico, we found that since there's been a such thing as a national music scene, since, you know, Jimmy and Janice were touring the country, Chico has had a thriving music scene that entire time, almost since it's been possible. In '68, the Grateful Dead played 1 Mile. You know, Sublime's last concert was here. Jewel used to
Dead
work.
Kennedys played Chapman Center.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Doobie Brothers used to play where Harriet is on the regular basis.
Jewel worked at Hey Juan's,
Yeah,
which
Jewel.
became Juanita's.
Jewel worked a few months downtown at a bar that was a popular music venue. Yeah, so it's really thick. So Halloween night, actually, Jeff got footage of this. He was walking around
Yeah.
Halloween with his GoPro, just getting random shots of people for his production company, and we ran into each other, and I was like, you know, and he had the camera rolling the whole time. I didn't even know. I was like, you know, let's turn this video idea into a documentary. Like, at this point, we have so much information, so many people interested in being involved.
Yeah.
Let's just take it to the next level. And so that's kind of what we're doing. We're filming for another week or two, interviews and random events, and then we're going to start editing over the holiday. And that's actually why we're here right now, is because we want to interview you a little bit.
Oh, wow.
We're filming, of course.
You're going to flip the script on me, aren't you?
I've got the camera on him right now.
Yeah.
I would have got a haircut for this. No,
Yeah, I'm sure.
Actually, I really knew about this.
Yeah. So, Jeff, do you want to give a little bit of your inspiration for doing this before we get into interviewing Brad here?
Sure, real quick. I'm a DJ at KCSC as well. We have a barbecue that's starts at 2 actually. But anyway, that's besides the point. I was born here in Low Hospital back in the 70s. I won't say exactly when, but it was early 70s. and I would say, like, in my young teen years, I wasn't at home much because it was just not a great environment. So I was out on the streets downtown, and I would always see bands playing and stuff, and that was like my entertainment. It was like my main source of entertainment. So I feel like at an early age, preteen or early teen years is when the music scene influenced me and affected me.
Mm-hmm.
The Chico music scene. So it's like I was like, what better to emphasize this than to bring it out and show that. I mean, we have over 350 gigging acts here, according to Jason Cassidy and Del Price, right?
Mm-hmm.
They came up with this number. So 350 gigging acts. I mean, it's just, I think it's like almost like an Austin, but when it comes to the music scene, a lot of people are leaving town, but I just think like he said at the beginning, it needs to be emphasized that and shown and displayed and represented and compiled that Chico is a big time music place, and we have great artists here.
When you see your good friends who are incredibly talented have to go to Reading to get a paid gig, it's like, really? Why? Why Reading do they have to go? Why can't they get a paid gig here?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of competition, so there is that. But the Downtown Chico Business Association doesn't pay for Friday night concerts. At one time they used to, but they don't anymore. And Taste of Chico, up till this very year, paid for every band, but now they, even with their sponsors, they said, we just can't fit it in the
budget.
In the budget, and that that's fine. What you're going to get is you're going to get bands that will play for free consistently, and that's fine. But what happens is you lose like the really talented acts that put a lot of effort into their craft. So we, and seeing that happen and seeing how some local promoters have treated local bands as if they're secondary to who they got coming through town, it just gets someone frustrated. It's like, we need to do something about this. So
Yeah.
obviously, you're doing something about this. Let's flip the table here. So how long have you been doing this radio show?
I've been doing this radio show for about 2 years. Studio 416 for about 2 years, but I've been in KZFR for about 5 years doing other shows.
So were you, I know that the local show up to this one was kind of like disjointed and not really organized. Were you kind of like in the wings waiting for the opportunity to do a local show?
Absolutely. Actually, no. Actually, I used to sit in with him once in a while, and I would sub for him. I had no idea what was about to come up, but anyway, eventually there's a falling out. He lost his show, and I said, I don't want to jump in there immediately. I don't want to just jump in there and take over that show. He had put in 15 years on that show before, right? So that was his brand. It was his show. It was. And so I didn't want to, be the one to jump in there, but they had called me a few months later and asked me, "Are you ready, to do it?" And I said, "I think I'm ready," because the thing is it's about the artist first. The bottom line about this show is about the artist, it's about you guys. I get the thrill of being able to interview guys like you every Saturday on this show. But that's what this show is about. That's why we named it Studio 416. It's the name of the studio. It's not the Brad Peterson show. It's not the Dan Carter show. It's Studio 416.
What is the 416?
It's very simple. It's actually the numbers on the front of our door as you walk in. We are room 416.
That's great.
And so one day, I'd been trying to think of a name for the show. They said, name the show what you want and do the show. And so I had been thinking of all these names and trying to get really creative. And one day I came up to the front door to do the show like I had done every other day and every other Saturday, and went to unlock the door and I look up and I say 416. Like, That's it. You know,
Yeah.
Studio 416.
Another
It's
cool-
simple.
yeah.
It's classy. That's it. you know,
Another cool thing is Studio One is kind of like famous in reggae, and actually in other music scenes, there's a such thing as Studio One in other genres.
mhm.
So Studio 416 is like we're like 416th generation
Yeah, that's
from
it.
Studio One. You
Yeah.
know, the evolution. That's pretty good.
Yeah, that's true. And so anyway, it's a beautiful thing to be able to put the spotlight on artists here in Chico and abroad. I try not to keep it just local, but people that are passing through too. And we've got people. I get emails all the time. Hey, we're coming through. Can we stop by the show and promote? You know, and I think that's the great thing about doing this, because my earliest memory was being 5 years old, sitting in the back seat of my parents' car and hearing "Jumping Jack Flash" by the Rolling Stones
Yeah.
on the AM car radio,
Yeah.
and my world went from black and white to Technicolor when I heard that.
Yeah.
And so that's all I've ever wanted to be a part of. You know,
It's
my
music.
whole life. That's
Yeah.
all I ever thought about was music. You know, all the way through. You know, every other genre of music as well. You know, and so to get to do this is a really awesome experience for myself.
That's something we're kind of learning. I keep coming back to the word service.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so many people are pursuing their own music with tunnel vision.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like if everybody took 6 months of their musical career
Yeah.
to focus on promoting their friends,
Yeah.
then none of us would have any problems getting gigs. None of us would have any problems with exposure.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but it's like this race almost
Yeah.
for musicians working against each other. What we found doing this project, and it sounds like you have as well, is when you put yourself in a place of service for other musicians
Yeah.
to promote them. I mean, you don't get paid, but you get paid.
Yeah.
So what kind of really cool experiences have come your way because of this show? Like specific highlights that come to mind. That you're
Oh
like,
gosh,
"That
I've
was
had great
awesome."
experiences with people that have had their first time ever on the radio.
Uh-huh.
Their family listens from some state off in the back east somewhere,
Mhm.
and they hear their kids on the radio for the first time. I've had people come on the show, and promoters will call in and say, "I want to book them. Can I have their information?" And the next thing I know, like months later, they're doing festivals. Incredible stuff like that. I've created really great relationships with artists that have been on the show over the years. A lot of them you guys probably know and love as well. And the ironic thing is no matter how long I do this show, there's still somebody that comes in that's new that I hadn't heard yet in this town. It's unbelievable after 2 years of doing this show.
Mhm.
There are still artists that I still have not heard yet, and they come in, and I'm surprised every time. I'm pleasantly surprised every time. And
Yeah, like Jeff was saying, with 350 gigging acts in Chico, taking the math further, about 1% of Chico is in a gigging, performing
Mhm.
act.
Yeah.
It's solo, duo, trio, band, whatever.
yeah,
That's insane. When you consider 1 out of 100 people, they're not just musicians. They're
Mhm.
actually actively out there performing, writing music, covering
Mhm.
songs, whatever. I think that's huge.
yeah,
You know?
yeah.
So.
Yeah, and it is. And I just started gigging recently myself again
Mhm.
after many years.
Mhm.
But I've spent so long doing this. And before I had this show, I would, do other shows. And even on those shows, I bring in live artists. So that's where I found my niche here at KZFR, is I love bringing in live artists, because it's never enough for me if I hear like a good song on the radio, or if I hear a good song in a club or a live act or whatever. It's not enough for me to go, oh, hey, that's a cool song, and then move on. No, I want to know like who wrote it, what inspired them to write it. I want to know the whole freaking backstory.
Yeah.
And I assume that there's people out there that want the same thing, and that's what this show's about.
Mhm.
The show is not only about sharing the music, but it's about sharing the backstory of that person, their life, their experiences. And that's the one thing from the time I was a kid, I was pulling out album sleeves and I wanted to read the small print. Who produced it, what recording studio they were at, who engineered it, and that's how I started connecting the dots with all these great albums.
Some of my favorite songwriters, first that comes to mind is Steve Poltz.
Mhm.
As a teenager, I found his music. I was just blown away, but
Yeah.
I found it because I bought Jules' album and
Mhm.
saw that She Didn't Write You Were Meant For Me.
Yeah,
And I was like, well, who's this Steve Poltz guy? Well,
Yeah.
it's her ex-boyfriend who wrote it for her, and she made the song famous.
yeah,
you know, and then he led me to Bob Schneider and
Mhm.
Ugly Americans and all these other bands that are really my absolute favorite music.
Exactly.
But
yeah.
it came from reading a liner note and being curious.
The liner notes are what kept me going as a kid. I'd sit and read, you know, I wasn't into sports, I wasn't into any of that. I was into music, and I wanted to read like who wrote, you know, who produced "Can You Hear Me Knockin'" by the Rolling Stones. You know, who played sax on that? It was Bobby Keys. You know, and things like that. And so that's the beautiful thing. All these years later, I get to do this show, and I get to find the backstory of all these artists that are here in Chico and that are all in the surrounding areas. And to be honest, their stories are every bit as exciting and cool to hear as reading, say, Keith Richards' biography
Sure.
or whatever else, you know, because everybody has their story, no matter how famous they are or not.
That's right.
You know, so everybody has their story, and I want to hear their story, and I know that people out there listening want to hear the stories too. So.
Right, and the thing is, when people put their passions first,
Mhm.
really cool stories tend to follow.
Yes, I've had some pretty intense stuff happen, like on this show, where people, you know, almost tears happen, you know, sometimes
Telling
in
their
some
story.
conversations, and after the show, I've like been in the elevator and going down the elevator with the artists, and they're like, "Wow, I haven't talked about that stuff in a long time. Like that felt really good. Like I appreciate it." You know?
What's your vision for the show? How do you, in 2 years from now, what's the evolution of Studio 416?
I would love, well, for one, just to keep going the way we're going, you know, and just always be here, like just always be a place for the artist to come, whether I'm here or not, you know, whether it's me or Dan Carter doing the show or whoever else, like, is to have a platform for the artist to come and have a place and have a home every Saturday from 1:30 to 3. But also I would love to take it out a little bit out there on the streets, maybe, you know, do some live, you know, some live remotes.
Yeah.
You know, things like that. I would like to take it out a little further. I would love to do that in the future.
Maybe go to some live shows on the week, you know, on a Friday night, and
Sure.
then have it mixed down by
Sure.
this show, and be like, "This happened last night."
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
That's,
That would be great.
Yeah.
That would be that's something that I would love to do down the road some more.
Now, a little bit more about you personally. Your music.
Hmm.
Where would you like to see your music and your personal relationship with music develop? You know, outside the show necessarily.
Wow, I don't know about my music because, you know, I've written a few songs that I've held on to, but I wouldn't fancy myself like an active songwriter, which I would love to do more of that. I have friends that are songwriters, and they're songwriters. You know a lot of them
Yeah.
as well. I mean, there's real songwriters in this town, and I wouldn't say that I'm really one of them. But